The vastness of space had always been silent. It had watched over countless wars, alliances, and betrayals. But never before had it witnessed the fury of humanity unleashed. For decades, Earth had followed the rules of the Galactic Council, believing in diplomacy, trade, and cooperation. The Council, an alliance of the most powerful civilizations in the galaxy, had always considered humanity as an unpredictable species, resourceful but ultimately harmless. They were wrong. When the Zorath Empire attacked Vega Prime, they did not just destroy a human colony. They shattered the illusion that humanity could be controlled. Over 1 billion lives were lost in mere hours, their cries vanishing into the void. The Council hesitated, debating sanctions and negotiations. The Zorath laughed, believing humanity would bow like so many others before them. They had no idea what they had done. Deep within the Sol system, Earth's hidden war machine awakened. The United Earth Navy had always prepared for this moment, even when others thought war was impossible. While the Council spoke of peace, humanity had built weapons in secret, crafting technology beyond what the galaxy had ever seen. And now, those weapons were ready. Admiral Leon Graves stood in the war room of Earth's primary fleet command station. Around him, holographic maps flickered, displaying the positions of enemy fleets and planetary defenses. Generals, admirals, and strategists filled the room, their faces grim. "The Council believes we will ask for help," one officer said. "The Zorath believe we will surrender," another added. Graves remained silent for a moment, his gaze fixed on the massive galactic map before him. Then he spoke, his voice calm, steady, and filled with the weight of certainty. "We're not asking for permission. We're not negotiating. This isn't going to be a measured response." He gestured toward the holographic display. A map of Zorath-controlled space appeared, highlighting key systems, their shipyards, supply lines, homeworlds. "They believe we will fight like the others before us," Graves continued. "They expect hesitation. They expect fear." He turned to face the room, his eyes cold with determination. "They expect wrong." Silence fell over the chamber. Then, a single voice broke through. "When do we begin?" Graves allowed himself a small, grim smile. "Now." Across the Sol system, the command was given. Massive warships, hidden within asteroid fields and deep space stations, powered up their engines. Dreadnoughts, their hulls reinforced with classified alloys, activated shields stronger than anything the galaxy had seen before. Stealth cruisers, nearly invisible even to advanced scanners, moved into formation. Fighters, armed with prototype rail cannons and pulse weapons, flooded into their carriers. It was not a fleet, it was an armada. No messages were sent, no demands, no negotiations. Humanity did not announce its vengeance. It simply came. At the edge of Zorath space, outposts were the first to fall. Defensive satellites blinked out of existence as Earth's ships tore through them with precision. Fleets scrambled to respond, but they were too slow. Hypersonic missiles, equipped with advanced AI targeting, found their marks before alarms could even be raised. On the bridge of the UEN flagship Warspite, Graves watched as his forces executed the attack with terrifying efficiency. Reports streamed in, outposts destroyed, patrols eliminated, communication networks collapsing. "The Zorath High Command will know we're here soon," a lieutenant reported. Graves nodded. Let them. For years, the Zorath had believed themselves untouchable. They had conquered worlds without consequence, crushed civilizations without resistance. Now, for the first time in their history, they faced an enemy that did not fear them. And humanity was just getting started. The Zorath homeworld, Dravok, was a fortress. Its orbital defenses had held against countless invasions, its fleets had crushed rebellions before they could begin, and its rulers sat upon their thrones with absolute confidence. No one had ever dared to strike at the heart of the empire. Until now. In deep space, near the edges of Zorath-controlled territory, Humanity's fleet gathered. No grand speeches were given. No warnings were sent. Humanity had nothing to say. The invasion had begun. Aboard the UEN flagship Warspite, Admiral Leon Graves stood at the command deck, watching the final preparations unfold. Before him, hundreds of warships floated in perfect formation, their weapons primed, their engines burning with quiet fury. This was not a desperate attack. This was not a last stand. This was retribution. "Status report," Graves said. "All fleets in position," replied Commander Elias Vaughn. "Phase 1 is ready to launch." Graves turned his gaze toward the massive holographic display. Dravok was surrounded by dozens of outlying defense stations, each equipped with planetary shield generators and massive plasma cannons. Their fleets patrolled the space lanes, ensuring no enemy could ever get close. At least that was what they believed. Graves exhaled slowly. "Begin Phase 1. A series of confirmations echoed through the command deck. Within moments, the first wave of humanity's attack commenced. From the darkness of space, stealth bombers emerged. Their engines emitted no detectable energy, their hulls designed to absorb radar signals. The Zoreth sensors never saw them coming. They moved with surgical precision, weaving through enemy patrols and automated turrets. Then, one by one, they struck. Explosions erupted across the defensive grid. Shield generators blinked out of existence before they could activate. Communication relays were reduced to burning wreckage. The Zoreth commanders barely had time to understand what was happening before chaos consumed them. Panic spread through the Zoreth High Command. Alarms blared. Fleets scrambled to respond, but humanity's attack was faster than they could comprehend. Graves watched as their carefully laid plans unfolded. Send in the main fleet. The darkness of space shattered as the UEN warships jumped into the system. They came like an unstoppable tide. Battle cruisers, dreadnoughts, carriers spilling out thousands of fighters. The Zoreth defenders launched everything they had. Plasma cannons roared to life. Missile turrets unleashed deadly payloads. But the humans were prepared. Countermeasures blinded enemy targeting systems. Kinetic barriers absorbed the first waves of fire. Then, humanity struck back. Railguns fired with planet-shaking force. Each impact tore through Zoreth ships like they were made of paper. Hypersonic torpedoes weaved through the battlefield, dodging point defense systems before slamming into their targets. Dravok's orbit became a graveyard. Zoreth admirals shouted desperate orders. Reinforcements were called in, but the human fleet was relentless. They advanced without hesitation, pushing deeper into enemy territory, overwhelming every defense. Aboard the bridge of the Zoreth flagship Tyrannus, Grand Admiral Varkov snarled in rage. "This is impossible," he roared. "They are humans. They should not have this power." But they did, and they were not stopping. The battle raged on. But deep inside the UEN command ship, Graves remained focused. Victory in orbit was only the first step. The true battle had yet to begin. "Prepare for planetary assault," he ordered. The invasion of Dravok was about to begin. The orbital battle was a massacre. Zoreth warships, once thought invincible, now drifted lifeless, torn apart by human firepower. The once proud fleets of Dravok were reduced to burning wreckage. But humanity's attack was far from over. Admiral Graves stood at the command deck of the Warspite, watching the battlefield unfold. The time had come for the next phase. "Begin ground operations," he ordered. Across the fleet, massive dropships deployed. Thousands of them, each carrying squads of elite human soldiers, heavy mechs, and advanced war machines. The invasion was not a simple planetary assault. It was an extinction-level event. From the ground, the Zoreth military watched in horror as the sky burned with incoming craft. Alarms rang across every city, every fortress. Soldiers scrambled to prepare defenses, but it was already too late. The first wave of human drop pods slammed into the surface with terrifying speed. Armored plating peeled away, revealing heavily armed shock troopers. Without hesitation, they opened fire. Zorath soldiers were disciplined, trained for war, but nothing had prepared them for this. The humans moved with ruthless precision, their weapons firing hyper-accelerated rounds that tore through Zorath armor like it was nothing. Tanks rolled into the streets, their cannons reducing entire buildings to rubble. Mechs thundered forward, their mechanical limbs crushing everything in their path. The Zorath defenders fought back with everything they had: plasma rifles, anti-tank missiles, energy turrets. But it wasn't enough. Humanity had come for vengeance, and they would not be stopped. Grand Admiral Varkoth watched the carnage from his command center deep inside the Zorath capital. His claws gripped the edges of his war table, his eyes wide with disbelief. They should be struggling, he growled. They should be losing. But the humans weren't losing. They were advancing. City after city fell. Fortress walls crumbled. Resistance broke apart as entire divisions of Zorath warriors were wiped out within hours. The capital of Dravok, once thought impenetrable, now stood vulnerable. And the humans were coming. Varkoth turned to his advisors, his voice shaking with rage. Deploy the planetary annihilator. A deathly silence filled the room. His officers hesitated. But, Grand Admiral, if we fire it on our own world? I do not care. Varkoth roared. We cannot let them take Dravok. Activate the weapon. Deep within the heart of the planet, ancient technology roared to life. A doomsday device, one designed as a last resort, one that could wipe out the entire human invasion force. But humanity was already prepared. Aboard the Warspite, intelligence officers detected the energy surge. Sir, they're activating something huge. Massive power readings underground. Graves narrowed his eyes. They'd rather destroy their own planet than let us take it. Commander Vaughn turned from his console. We can't let them finish whatever they're doing. Graves didn't hesitate. Launched the final strike. From orbit, human dreadnoughts repositioned. Railguns adjusted their aim. Heavy bombers locked onto the target. And then, all at once, humanity fired. The sky turned to fire. Hyper-accelerated tungsten rods, each the size of a skyscraper, rained down upon Dravok. The impact shattered mountains, leveled fortresses, and sent shockwaves across the planet. The doomsday device never had a chance to activate. Deep beneath the surface, its control chambers collapsed. Energy coils ruptured. Power conduits exploded. Within moments, the Zorath's last hope was gone, buried under the very rubble of their own world. Varkoth stared at the destruction, his face frozen in horror. This cannot be. But it was. Dravok had fallen, and humanity had won. The once proud Zorath homeworld lay in ruins. Smoke choked the skies. Fires raged in what remained of their cities, and the screams of the dying echoed through the shattered streets. The mighty empire that had once ruled vast sectors of space was now on its knees, broken by the relentless fury of humanity. Admiral Graves stood aboard the command deck of the Warspite, watching the devastation unfold on the holoscreens. Reports flooded in from ground forces. Resistance was collapsing. Entire divisions of Zorath soldiers were surrendering. Their weapons were discarded, their spirits shattered. The great Zorathian fleet was no more. They thought they could challenge us, Graves muttered. They thought humanity would break. Commander Vaughn stepped forward. Sir, we have intercepted a transmission. The Zorath government is requesting terms of surrender. The bridge fell silent. Graves clenched his fists. Put them through. A moment later, the holoscreen flickered to life, revealing Grand Admiral Varkoth. The once proud warlord of the Zorath stood in what remained of his command center, his uniform stained with blood, his eyes filled with desperation. Behind him, his officers looked equally defeated. You, humans. Varkoth's voice was barely above a growl. We surrender. Graves said nothing. He studied the Zorath leader, watching as the alien warrior struggled to force out the words. Varkoth's claws twitched. You have proven your strength. You have destroyed our fleets, crushed our armies, burned our cities. The war is over. Graves exhaled slowly. The war was over. But the question remained, what came next? Humanity had never wanted this war. The Zoreth had started it. They had attacked human colonies, slaughtered civilians, and mocked Earth's warnings. They had thought themselves superior, had believed that humanity would cower and beg for mercy. They had been wrong. Graves turned to Vaughn. How many human lives have we lost? Vaughn's expression darkened. Too many, sir. Cities erased, families destroyed. Countless men and women who had fought, bled, and died to bring the Zoreth Empire to its knees. And now they were supposed to accept a simple surrender. Graves looked back at Varkuth, his voice cold. There will be no surrender. The Zoreth officers flinched. Varkuth's eyes widened. What? Graves took a step forward, his gaze burning into the defeated warlord. You thought this was a game. You attacked us, killed our people, and expected us to forget. No, you wanted war. Now you will see what war truly means. Varkuth's hands curled into fists. You cannot mean. I mean exactly what I say. Graves' voice was like steel. The Zoreth Empire will not survive this day. The transmission cut off. A heavy silence filled the bridge. Sir, Vaughn said carefully, if we push forward, there will be no coming back from this. Graves looked at him. They sealed their fate the moment they spilled human blood. He turned to his weapons officers. Begin orbital bombardment. Target every military facility, every government stronghold. Reduce them to dust. A moment later, the order was relayed. Across the fleet, dreadnoughts adjusted their aim. Missile silos unlocked their payloads. Heavy railguns powered up. And then, fire rained from the sky. Massive explosions tore through the planet. The last strongholds of the Zoreth Empire were reduced to rubble. Their command centers obliterated. Their armies annihilated. Their cities wiped from existence. From the shattered streets of Dravok, the surviving Zoreth citizens could only watch in horror as their civilization was erased. Their leaders had promised them victory. Now, they had nothing. And above them, humanity's warships remained, unyielding, unforgiving. There would be no mercy. The Zoreth homeworld was no more. What had once been a thriving center of power in the galaxy was now a graveyard of fire and ruin. The orbital bombardment had lasted for hours, leaving nothing behind but broken structures, scorched land, and the silence of the dead. Aboard the Warspite, Admiral Graves stood with his hands clasped behind his back, staring at the burning planet below. The battle was over. Humanity had won. And yet there was no celebration. No cheers of victory, only the quiet realization of what had just been done. Sir, Commander Vaughn said, stepping beside him, the last remaining Zoreth forces have been neutralized. We are receiving reports from other fleets. Every Zoreth colony, every stronghold, every military asset has been destroyed. The Empire is finished. Graves nodded slowly. And the survivors? Vaughn hesitated. Scattered. Few in number. They have no ships left, no leadership, no homeworld. They are nothing now. Nothing. The Zoreth had ruled with an iron grip for centuries. They had conquered and enslaved dozens of species, crushing anyone who dared to oppose them. They had thought themselves untouchable, superior. And now, they were dust. Graves exhaled, his fingers tightening behind his back. We warned them, he muttered. We gave them a chance to stop. They refused. Vaughn shifted uncomfortably. What happens now, sir? The question hung in the air. Humanity had done what no other species had dared, wiped an empire off the galactic map. But war had consequences. The Galactic Council has called for an emergency meeting, Vaughn continued. They're demanding to speak with us immediately. Graves turned away from the viewport. Then let's not keep them waiting. The command deck's holoscreen flickered to life, revealing a massive chamber filled with alien representatives. Dozens of species sat in stunned silence, their faces filled with fear and disbelief. They had watched the fall of the Zoreth unfold in real time. They had seen what humanity was capable of. The Speaker of the Council, an elder Ithari with trembling hands, cleared his throat. "Admiral Graves," he said cautiously, "is it true? The Zoreth Empire is gone." Graves' expression was unreadable. "Yes." A ripple of gasps spread through the chamber. Some of the representatives recoiled. Others whispered among themselves, their voices filled with uncertainty. The speaker swallowed hard. This is unprecedented. No empire has ever been completely eradicated before. What you have done will change the balance of power in the galaxy forever." Graves said nothing. Another representative, a reptilian Thalvok, leaned forward, his voice low and wary. "We underestimated your kind," he admitted. "We thought humans were restrained, that you valued diplomacy above all else." Graves' eyes darkened. "We did, until they took that choice away from us." Silence. The speaker hesitated. "There are those among us who now fear humanity. If you could do this to the Zoreth, what's stopping you from turning that power on the rest of us?" The question lingered in the air like a storm cloud. The unspoken fear, the realization that the galaxy had changed overnight. Humanity was no longer the underdog, no longer a species to be dismissed or ignored. Graves took a step closer to the holoscreen, his gaze sweeping over the gathered representatives. "We did not ask for this war," he said firmly. "We did not seek conquest. We wanted peace. The Zoreth made their choice, and they paid the price." His voice hardened. "Let this be a warning. If any of you think of doing to us what they did, if you threaten our people, invade our worlds, spill human blood, you will share their fate." The weight of his words sent a chill through the chamber. The message was clear. Humanity was not to be crossed, and the galaxy would never be the same again. The Galactic Council's fleet gathered at the edge of Terran space, their massive warships forming an imposing blockade. They had come not as diplomats, but as enforcers. Humanity's departure from the Council had shaken the balance of power, and now the Council sought to remind Earth of its place. Admiral Graves stood on the bridge of the UTS Titan, Earth's most advanced warship, staring at the incoming transmission from the Council's fleet commander, High Marshal Xenthos. The alien's reptilian face filled the screen, his golden eyes narrowing. "Admiral Graves," Xenthos said, his voice laced with authority, "you will order your forces to stand down. The Galactic Council cannot allow an independent Earth. Your very existence threatens stability." Graves smirked. "You mean it threatens your control?" Xenthos bristled. "Do not mistake this for a negotiation. You will comply, or we will be forced to act." Graves turned to his officers. "Are the fleet's defenses online?" Commander Vasquez nodded. "All systems operational. Weapons hot. Shields at full strength." Graves looked back at the screen. "You don't understand what you're doing, Xenthos. If you attack us, you will regret it." The alien let out a slow, mocking hiss. "Your forces are powerful, yes, but the Council's armada is vast. We have the numbers." Graves leaned forward. "And we have the will." Silence. Then, a warning alarm blared across the Titan's bridge. "Enemy ships are locking weapons," a tactical officer shouted. Graves gave a single nod. "Then let's show them why they should have left us alone." With a single command, the Terran fleet sprang into action. The first Council ships opened fire, blue energy bolts streaking toward the Titan. But the moment they made contact, something unexpected happened. The shots fizzled against an unseen barrier. "They're using energy-dampening shields," a Council officer shouted aboard Xenthos's flagship. Before they could react, the Titan counterattacked. Massive railguns fired, sending hyper-accelerated slugs straight through the enemy formation. Ships exploded instantly. The Council fleet panicked. Their tactical data had been outdated. They thought humanity was powerful, but this was something else. Graves watched the chaos unfold. "They thought they could intimidate us," he muttered. "Now they learn." In less than 10 minutes, half of the Council's fleet had been crippled. The remaining ships attempted to retreat, but Terran warships surrounded them. A transmission from Xanthos came through, his face now filled with desperation. "We surrender," he gasped. "Call off your attack." Graves exhaled slowly. "No." Xanthos' eyes widened in horror. Graves continued, "You brought this fight to our doorstep. You threatened our people. There is no going back." He turned to his weapons officer. "End it." A final barrage of railgun fire tore through the Council's remaining ships. The once mighty fleet was gone. The battle was over. And the galaxy now understood. Earth did not bow. Earth did not forget. And Earth did not forgive. The battlefield was silent. Wreckage from the once mighty Galactic Council fleet drifted through space, the remains of their arrogance floating lifelessly in the void. The war was over, but the true battle, the one for the future, had just begun. On board the UTS Titan, Admiral Graves stood on the bridge, watching the devastation. His officers moved with quiet efficiency, ensuring every surviving enemy vessel had been neutralized. There would be no more threats today. A transmission request blinked on his console. The source: High Marshal Xanthos, or rather, what was left of him. His flagship was barely functional, its hull scorched and broken. Graves allowed the transmission. Xanthos' face appeared, his golden eyes dim with exhaustion. "You've made your point, Admiral," the alien muttered. "Humanity has proven its strength." Graves crossed his arms. "This didn't have to happen, but your council forced our hand." Xanthos exhaled, a deep, rasping sound. "And now what? Will you take our place? Rule over the council as conquerors?" Graves glanced at his officers, then back at the defeated marshal. "No, we're not here to rule, but we will make sure this never happens again." Xanthos tilted his head. "What do you mean?" Graves leaned in. "The council is finished. It was built on fear, on control. We are dismantling it. No more forced obedience. No more empires pretending to be governments." Xanthos' eyes widened. "You can't mean." "We mean exactly that," came a new voice. President Eleanor Carter of the Terran Republic had entered the bridge. The leader of humanity stood tall, her presence commanding. She fixed Xanthos with a firm stare. "The Galactic Council is no more," Carter said. "We are forming something new. A system where no species is forced into submission. A true alliance, built on respect, not fear." Xanthos looked away, his expression unreadable. "And if the remaining council species refuse?" Carter's expression hardened. "Then they will face the same fate as you." The transmission cut. The message was clear. Humanity had won, and the galaxy would change. Word of the council's defeat spread quickly. Former council worlds, once ruled with an iron fist, saw their overlords crumble. Rebellions ignited overnight. The old power structure collapsed. But unlike the council, humanity did not take control through tyranny. They sent diplomats, engineers, and scientists to rebuild. They offered alliances instead of demands. The galaxy watched in stunned silence. Humanity had the power to dominate, but instead, they lifted others up. And so, a new era began. The Terran Republic, once dismissed as just another species, now stood as the guiding force of the stars. The war was over, but the message would never be forgotten. Humanity had entered the battlefield, and the galaxy would never be the same again.